Hey crafters, Nicole here. And slimline cards are all the rage, I'm sure you know, but let me tell you, you don't have to invest in a whole bunch of dies and stencils that are designed just for the trend. You can use items already in your stash. Sometimes you just have to get a bit creative. I have a new sketch for you, and I'm going to show you how to use your regular stencils for a slimline design. Welcome to Sketch Starters with Nicole. First, let's talk about this sketch. You might remember this one from a few videos ago when I shared how I create some of my sketches for magazines. Well, I liked the idea, but no matter how hard I tried, those three squares just weren't working for me. I knew I wanted to use stencils to make some masculine slimline cards, but then what? I started to look beyond the individual elements and decided to make one big background shape. Using stencils, this could be a more subtle look, which is a-okay. So I removed all of the overlapping lines, and this is what I ended up with. One other change I'm going to make is taking this circle element and making it larger, and then I'm going to pop it behind that wide strip. This will allow for a more prominent sentiment with a supporting focal point image behind it. See, I keep telling you that sketches are just a guideline. You should never feel boxed in by what's suggested. If you see a little hint of something that you like, then you followed the sketch. It was there to inspire you, and that's exactly what you should be, inspired. Okay, let's move on to those stencils. I'm using my monthly color combo for these projects, which will add some bold contrasts with reds and blues and oranges. I'm starting with a piece of red cardstock that's slightly lighter than ruby red. The plan is to add in a more subtle background with the Cube Builder stencil and go bold with a larger blue element later. Since the stencil doesn't fit across the slimline, I'm going to tackle this in two parts. To get that large background shape from the sketch in place, I'll use some post-it tape to mask off parts of the stencil. Though I'm not too concerned with keeping it perfectly straight lines, I really am looking for more of an organic fade off to the left. I'm starting off my stenciling with a ruby red. This is going to result in a gorgeous tone-on-tone look. Geometrics are a no-brainer for masculine cards, but they don't have to be bold. This is the kind of look that takes a solid red background from plain to pow. Simple enhancements like this will take your card making to the next level of detail and beauty. Making this particular stencil work for a slimline is pretty easy. All I have to do is match up the pattern further down and continue with my ink blending. I masked off to the left to mimic the sketch, and you can see how easy it is to get the stencil to work across the card. I like to challenge you to pick your favorite stencil and create a slimline design. Share in the comments below what stencil you're thinking of using. Completing the second part of this 3D cube look is just as easy as the first. I turned the clean stencil 9 degrees and picked a slightly different color to create the next side of the cube. In this case, I'm using sun-kissed ink, which might seem like a strange choice since it's an orange, but it actually showed up, leaving a really cool effect on the cardstock. Just like before, I shifted that stencil down and finished the end of the design. Let's move on to that bold round element. The illusion heart die is a really cool geometric take on a classic heart. I wanted it to be a bit more substantial, so I die cut 2 of them in the middle, 2 shades of the Seashore Gradient cardstock. I added some double-sided adhesive sheet to the darker lagoon cutout to adhere both of them together without a gluey mess, but really I should have put adhesive sheet on both layers as it would have made final placement super easy. So the pokey tool definitely helps me get out the pieces of the die from the die cut. Once I have it popped out, I first check to see how they're going to offset, and then I go ahead and pull back that adhesive backing from one side of the heart and carefully place the 2 pieces together. So once I have those 2 pieces pressed down, it's very easy to get the rest of this in line. I'm just going to pull off the rest of the backing here, and it looks like a little bit of a crazy mess, but it is so much easier than liquid glue. The last thing I need for this card is a sentiment. So I pulled out the eucalyptus jar set because it has a great love label sentiment. This is going to be a Valentine's card for my husband, so it's just perfect. I'm stamping on white cardstock with obsidian ink. I don't feel it necessary to get a perfect black image, so if a little white peeks through, that's okay. With it all stamped out, I'll take a quick minute to fussy cut it right along the stamp edge. With everything prepared, I can finish up this design. I have the background panel already adhered to a slimline card base, which measures 8.5 inches by 7 inches and is scored at 3.5. Then I'll add some adhesive to the heart die cut and pop that onto the card. You can see it's taking a bit of time here to add all those little dots of adhesive to the heart. How simple it would have been if I had used some adhesive sheets instead. I mean, seriously, folks, I would have been done by now if I had remembered to put adhesive sheet on the back of that. The sentiment is going to get popped up with some foam tape, which I already have in place, and I could call the project complete. But I thought this would be a great opportunity to use some of the heart-shaped enamel dots that I never use. I normally go for a trio of embellishments, but with all of that vertical space on this card, I felt like it could handle some more. Besides, there's this big disparity in size between the die cut heart and the enamel hearts, so I felt like I really needed to balance that out on the right side a bit. And so I added 2 additional hearts on the right there, and that will finish off this first design. Are you enjoying this project? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click the bell for notifications. For the second look, I'm flipping the sketch on its side. When I do that, it kind of looks like a mountain range. I mean, you can't quite see it yet with those little square edges, but you'll figure it out in a minute here. So that's what I'm going to create with the geometric landscape stencil. Staying with a subdued background, I'm going to emboss the image in clear embossing powder so I get that tone-on-tone look again. This time with some shine. I'm putting down plenty of anti-static powder here before I add the embossing ink through the stencil. To add the embossing ink, it's easiest to use a sponge-style dauber. That way I can use a pouncing or pressing motion instead of swirling around. I feel like I get better, quicker coverage with embossing ink when I use that pouncing motion and with a foam applicator. In addition, the thin lines of the stencil can really shift a little bit, and the pouncing motion helps keep everything from slipping. To create the background shape and extend the stencil across the slimline, I'm simply shifting the stencil and pairing up a few lines along the way to give the appearance of a continuous stencil. As I approach the top of the stencil, I'm simply staying away from the edge, creating an uneven mountain top approximately following the line from the sketch. I added the clear embossing powder off camera and proceeded to melt it with my heat tool, and this is the straightforward result. It's a pretty modern looking, sort of kind of mountain looking thing, and you might take one look at this and go, yuck. But I'm going to add in some Desert Night ink blending here to bring this to life. I'm shading through all of those in-between lines to really help the embossing pop off the page and extend over the top just a little bit. This blue fade at the top will create a look of a deep sky over the mountains, again, helping to push the actual mountain shape forward to your eye, creating a really interesting focal point. With the shading complete, I added the panel to a card base, and now I just need to add in the circular element and the sentiment. I picked up bright orange cardstock for a super luminous sun, which was die cut from the nesting halftone circle die set, and I'll add in a sentiment from the geometric landscape stamp set. I love these sentiments, not only for their unique messages, but because of the beautiful, thin, all lowercase font. It's really awesome looking. So with those elements complete, I can go ahead and finish this card. The large circle will get glued directly onto the card base, and I'll pop some foam adhesive onto the back of the sentiment here and get that in place. It's going to overhang just a little bit. I didn't trim it to size. So once I have it in place here, I'll go ahead and do a quick flip and snip, and I'll have it cut right down to size. So I thought twice about the additional embellishments. I thought maybe I wouldn't add the enamel dots, but in the end, I couldn't resist. This time I popped some of the circular dots instead of the hearts or stars, and I grouped them all below that large circle die cut. So if you're trying to be literal, these could represent stars in the sky, or perhaps we're on an alien planet with many moons orbiting. Either way, they add a little more interest to an already interesting masculine card. And that completes our 2 takes on the sketch. Remember, you don't need to have a whole special stash to create Slimline cards. I'm sure that many of the stencils and other products you already have would work perfect in a Slimline situation. You may have to be creative with some more than others, but in most instances, you should find success. I hope you take me up on the challenge and create a Slimline with a non-Slimline stencil. Share the stencil you plan on using in a comment below. And once you're done with your project, share it out on social media and tag @AltaNewLLC and me, Pixel Mavens Retreat, using the hashtag #AltaNewSketchStarters. We love to see what you're inspired to create. I'll be back soon with another sketch and some more creative ideas. But until then, happy crafting.
Hello there! Did that video just spark your creativity? And do you want more project ideas and inspiration videos too? Well, if you do, please make sure that you subscribe to the Altanew YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you do click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye!